Hey everybody, welcome to The Difference, a podcast where we highlight leaders. And we have on today's episode, Liz and Amy Edmondson. But before we get started, we have a lot of questions about how we find our podcast and how we can look for that. So you can look for it here in YouTube. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And be sure to send Drew any emails of, people that you'd like to see on here. But only Drew, not me. Welcome.
You hit both at the same time. Nice job.
Thank you. Yes, so we're here on The Difference, and we have actually two guests with us.
That's right.
We have Liz Brown here. She is a people lead from 5260. I love it. Here's a fun fact. So Drew is a 3, and both you and I are like the same numbers.
Yes.
Which is a 7 and a 2.
That's
Like
us.
sisters.
This is fantastic. I'm usually always like
I'm
the outsider.
outnumbered at this point.
Yeah, this is great. So we have Liz Brown joining us. And do we want to talk about the really cool announcement, or are we going to wait for a second? I mean, it's already been announced.
Yes.
But-
Well, Liz is here for a specific reason, for a couple of reasons, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we're
One
going
reason
to
for a few
bring up
reasons.
the guest that we have as well, which is Amy Edmondson.
Yes.
Amy is a professor at Harvard, and she has done a lot of research on teaming. And we just finished up a conversation, the three of us, with Amy. Fascinating. So I'm going to set that up here in a bit, but it's a good conversation for any leader, I think, in the company to hear some of her thoughts based on real data around what makes a great leader in a team type environment. So it's just fantastic. Anyways, we'll set that up here in a minute.
Yep.
But Liz, you're here.
Hi.
Liz made the most important announcement of the year at
did I?
shareholders.
Did I?
Yes.
Anybody who saw shareholders, I think we have a picture of Liz. Up there you are.
There I am. In
So
all
actually-
my glory. And I still have the froggy throat, too.
Oh, you did great.
It's okay, though.
You did great.
I'm
it's
still here.
allergies. It's fine.
allergies.
So at shareholders, Liz made the announcement that we were going to be closed again on Thanksgiving.
Yes,
which is such a
sir.
great announcement. Here we go.
That's a good one. We do, yeah.
So big announcement. You did a
Yeah.
great job.
Thank you.
How was it? How was that experience being like on camera in front of all these people? There's like
Yep.
14,000 people watching.
You know what? It was humbling, for sure. Like, it was such a sweet gesture. I felt like just being nominated and selected to be
Yeah.
able to do that. I got to sit down with John for a few minutes. Such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Such a nice guy. I joked before sitting down with him, and because they gave me a script, right, to kind of look over before giving the announcement. And so I knew beforehand what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
But I hadn't actually met with him. But the script said, John just told me, or this person just told me, right? So I'm like, okay, so this is cool.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
And then he, like a few minutes before everything really kicked off, his assistant, I think, came and found me. And I was like, you know what? It is so great that he has such integrity. I'm going to be able to actually sit down and talk to him about this.
Yeah, sure.
But he's a super, super great guy.
Good.
So
And you got
all
it.
in all, it was just a fabulous experience.
Yeah.
It really was.
Were you nervous?
A little.
Yeah.
I tried to
Who couldn't be?
channel,
Right?
Yeah.
channel that energy. You know what? Worst case scenario, like
Yeah.
everyone laughs at me.
Well, I thought you did a great
Oh,
job.
yes. Such a natural.
Yeah,
Oh,
very
thank
very passionate about
Yep.
it and very engaging.
Yeah.
So I thought you did a great
So
job.
I firmly believe that this is such a great thing for the associates, like
Yep.
giving them time with their families.
Yeah.
You know, it has still been a challenging, like 18 months, however long it's been with COVID.
Yeah.
So just giving that time to frontline workers to spend more time with their children, their spouse.
That's right.
So I think it's really great.
Yeah, I was really happy that we made the announcement. That's great. Good. Well, congratulations on getting that chance, and it's great to have you. Thank you for all that you're doing and the difference you're making in your store and the difference you're making in the community.
Thank you.
And I think we had a really good discussion here as well. All right, Amy, thank you so much for joining us. We know you got a lot going on and you're busy and you're willing to talk to us. And we just cherish the opportunity to get some knowledge from you. And the three of us have been anxious to talk and get some of your thoughts on a lot of concepts, but one in particular is this idea of teaming and how individuals come together for a common mission. We've been we've been going through this effort now for a while for teaming, Liz, right? You've probably been part of some of this, and how we get individuals to think a little bit different on not only leadership, but how we come together for a common mission. And Amy, you've done a lot of research in this space. And so what I thought we'd do just to start out, if we have time, I'd like to get your background as well. I think it's fascinating. But first, for this teaming concept, what made you interested in even going down and looking at this as a concept? And I know you looked at several different industries, which we can get into, but what kind of sparked that interest for you?
No, I have always been, I've long been interested in this idea of the learning organization. I'm sure that many of your listeners have thought about that, right? Like, we want to be a learning organization. What does that mean? It means we want to be an organization that is able to keep learning from its own experience, to keep improving, and innovating, so as to be ever more relevant in a changing world. And so that's a kind of large umbrella aspiration, right? It's an interest. It's also an aspiration that companies might have, or that researchers might have, to understand better. And so I've been, as you said, I've studied many different industries or organizations in different industries. And in some cases, you show up and they are, if you say, well, I'd like to study some teams. They say, fine, how many, right? Here's the team, here's a team, here's a team. And you go, great. And, off and running. Other places, for example, some of my early research was in the hospital setting, in the healthcare delivery, which, as you know, are usually 24/7 operations. And, each patient is unique and might need different care at different times. And so when I tried to, let's say from a survey point of view, where I want to get data from teams to understand how well they're doing, it was very hard for my host to know, well, which team, right? There are no stable teams here.
Interesting.
And yet, does that mean people are just doing their own thing and all is well? No. It means they're every bit as interdependent as, many other settings that use teams widely, but the teams aren't stable.
Right.
So they need teaming, but they don't have stable teams. And so I got interested in that as a challenge, right? As a challenge, like, how do you have great teamwork when you're often teaming with strangers? You're not sort of getting to know your great group and, getting comfortable with what they know and what you know. And, you can almost coordinate effortlessly because you get to know each other. And so teaming is sort of the verb, where team is the noun. And I'm going to just go all out on a limb and say it's challenging, right? It's challenging to team effectively, and it's important.
Yeah, it's when I think about our world, one is in stores, for example, we have teams, and some are kind of stable. We have a stable set of associates, but then we also have part-time associates or others that you may spend different times on different teams, right? So we'd like to say we have these stable teams, but the reality is that we have these unstable moments, right, Liz?
There are definitely layered in there.
Yeah, right.
Like you said, part-time associates that spend less time in the store.
That's right.
And your stores are open long, right?
Right. Yeah. That's right. You're gonna deal with different shifts and all that kind of stuff. The other one is here in the office, we have what we call 4-in-the-box teams, which is our teams that do development of products. So customer products, associate products. And the 4-in-the-box is you got somebody from the business, somebody from product, somebody from design, somebody from tech. And those are constantly forming to solve different problems depending on the situation. So they're constantly going through teaming or forming or teaming activities. But for us, those that are listening, that's kind of the reference point. And one of the reasons we brought Amy in is, yes, there is something about this connection that we have with a leader. But in reality, you're going to have these moments in time, and maybe even a couple of times throughout the day, which I thought was interesting with the hospital.
Yes.
They probably go through a teaming activity or forming of a team several times throughout the day because of shifts.
Right. Right, absolutely. And in some cases, a team is just swarming in to do, let's say, a code. If a patient has a heart attack, people might be coming from all different corners, and they might not have ever worked with these exact people before, but they know their roles, and they have their expertise. They know their their area, and they still need to do a really good job of coordinating and collaborating real time under pressure. So it's a kind of a particularly intense version of some of the very same challenges that you face in your store, Liz.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I see swarming. I think that's the word you
that's
use.
right. We
Every
use
day.
swarming. Yeah,
Every
that's
day.
right.
So it's a lot of fun. I like the energy that teaming brings to the stores, and I like how it empowers each associate to really own their work, own their career, and own the relationships that they have. So I definitely can see how what you're sharing translates.
Yeah, that's
to
fantastic.
the store
Swarming
side.
is a great example of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
swarming, Amy, for us is maybe it's not, although sometimes it may feel like a patient. It could be a customer situation, or it could be a pallet of freight, or it could be something where we got to now swarm together. It could be multiple different teams that come together, and we're like, we got an objective over the next 2 hours to get this done. That's reality.
Yep.
That happens all the time. Amy, what's first of all, I have 5,000 questions for you, but the why hospitals? Why would you choose these very high intensity, high stakes? Like the stakes couldn't be higher. Is that just to get real learnings because you get that raw learnings out of it, or?
Sure. Let me tell you that there's a kind of a theoretical or conceptual reason, and then there's a practical reason. And the conceptual reason is that hospitals, almost the way your question implies, hospitals are like intensified versions of the same challenges that we all face. You've got a team with strangers. You've got to, you've got to deal with uncertainty. You have to deal with variety, and you have to do it to the very best of your ability, even when you're not feeling great that day, right? So it's like a petri dish of looking at the things we really care about good workplaces, where you're doing it under even greater pressure and even more sped up kinds of time frames, and so it's a really good place to. It's like an extreme case where you can learn about the dynamics of other cases. The practical reason is that most people in healthcare are very comfortable with research and researchers. Right? They expect to be studied. They don't make you sign a whole lot of stuff. They don't, they don't, what are you doing and why are you doing it? And, they understand that modern medicine is only as good as it is because it has a history of being open to research, where we can develop new knowledge, whether that's medical knowledge or management knowledge. And so they're comfortable being studied. They're comfortable with the whole idea of research.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, if you came to Walmart, we may have you sign a few things.
Only a few, though.
I'm not gonna lie.
I'd be happy to. And by the way, you have to know, universities like mine have very strict what's called human subjects protection protocols, right? So none of us can go do any research at all without a careful review that what we're planning to do will not harm anybody, meaning, no individuals, but also no companies, will, their reputations or anything else. We cannot and will not publish anything that isn't cleared or okay with the people we study. So that's very strict.
That's good. What I love about it is there's hard data behind these concepts. They're not just random concepts. It's stuff that you observed, and there was outcomes to that. It's not like you went in there with this idea of probably teaming. It's like you saw this come to life, and the data told you a certain story.
Yeah, more often than not, the data tells me what I'm missing, right? So I came in, for example, when I came into the hospital to study teams, like, well, we don't know where exactly to draw the boundaries. What kind of teams did you want? Did you want, the monthly rotations or the nursing teams or the, and there's many categories, right? So I discovered teaming, not expecting to discover teaming.
Interesting.
And similarly with psychological safety, I wanted to show that better teams made fewer mistakes, right? That's pretty good research question.
Yeah.
But what I found in this early study was that it wasn't clear, right? The better teams, according to a well-validated team diagnostic survey, were associated with higher error rates, not lower. And then you think, well, what's going on here? That can't be right. And to make a long story short, what I ultimately was able to figure out is that the better teams were more comfortable, more able to talk about mistakes. In other words, we had a massive reporting bias, right? So we had teams that were better at hiding mistakes. Something that looks like an easy question becomes a harder question to answer, when you sort of struggle with the reality of data.
Yeah, that's great. Boy.
What was surprising to you as you looked at how transparency plays a role in psychological safety and teaming? Like, was there anything that the data told you that was just really like an aha for you?
Well, I'll back up. I'll say it was an aha for me to realize, and I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was, to realize how different the levels of transparency can be in one group in the same organization as in another, right? So it's not surprising that transparency is a determinant of psychological safety, but it is surprising how very different it can be in the same corporate culture, let's say.
Absolutely.
That's a great question. All right, so on that note, when you looked at a team, and I don't know within the teams, and we can pick the hospital or the miners, whichever example you want, how much of that environment was created by the leader? And I don't even know in the hospital if there is a set leader, right? It's just a group of people. Or is it just the environment within the team? Like, what either created the sense of teaming, ones that went well, what didn't? Like, what were the characteristics of the team or the characteristics of a leader? And then on the same note, Liz, to your point on the psychological safety and the transparency, are there specific things that popped out that said, hey, when teams do this well, they perform better, or they have more safety and they have more transparency, or however you looked at it? But are there any things in particular that came out in the data that said, hey, here's what makes those teams so effective?
Well, yes, a number of things, but let me say first, I can't help but say in hospitals there are leaders.
Yep,
if you're in a nursing unit, there's the nurse manager. If you're ICU, there's the medical director. Right? Wherever you go, there's a hierarchy. There are leadership roles. Thank goodness, because I think without leadership roles, I'm not saying not all leadership means hierarchy, but leadership is mission critical to things working the right way, right? If we're left to our own devices to kind of spontaneously do the right thing, it doesn't always happen, right? Because it's hard to know what the right thing is. Someone's got to be clarifying where we're headed and giving us a purpose and helping us make trade-offs in various things. So I will say the question is a little bit of a chicken and egg question. Whether it's, does leadership affect the team? Is leadership the primary influence? Leadership is a really important influence, like a team leader, store manager. I think you know that, right?
Absolutely.
Influence, but it's not deterministic, right? It's not like gravity, where it will always go at 9.8 minutes a second or whatever it is, right? It's much more of a influence, right? That things that leader and complex influences, right? Things that leaders do and say have an outsized influence on others, but things that everyone does and says influence each other. So, culture or even climate in a store, let's say, is an emergent phenomenon. If you were to ask me from the data, what is the largest factor in shaping psychological safety, it's nearly always leadership behavior. But that's not the only one. Right? There's other things going on. So what do? Well, they are, turns out, some pretty simple things, right? They're just a bit more aware, a little bit more self-aware, humble, curious, more likely to ask good questions, more likely to say, hey, I just got here, what's happening today?
That's so good.
Right? And then you might be, if especially a leader says, hey, I just got here, what's happening today? you'd feel pretty awkward sitting there silent, right?
Yep.
You're gonna
Yep.
respond. So and then in your response, that leader might be listening thoughtfully, right? So then your experience of saying something was a positive experience. Right? So it's dynamic. It's often self-reinforcing. It's probably worth mentioning that it's of course fragile, right? So that I can, as a leader, I might do a lot of things well, but if I have, one moment of blowing up at someone for a mistake, that's going to undo. It's going to create some real damage.
It's kind of like being a parent.
Yeah.
I have.
You can fix it. You can fix it. You can apologize. You can say, "I'm so sorry. I lost it. I was upset, but I understand. These things happen. Now, how can I help?"
That's so good. Side note is I took my daughter camping, and she's my youngest daughter. She's 7, and spent this whole time. Thought it was the most awesome, 2 days ever. And I bring her home, and the only thing she remembers is I had got onto her because in the tent she was not cleaning her feet off, and so all the dirt was in the tent. When I say got onto her, I just mentioned, "Hey, let's just let's clean our feet before we get it." The only thing she told my wife, her mom, is the only thing she could remember was Dad got onto me because of my dirty feet. I'm like, I just spent 2 days in the woods with you, and that's the only thing you remember. Anyways,
That's right.
it's fragile. It's fragile.
fragile.
Gotta do the right things.
The negatives stand out, although we might need to work on that, because it actually is a useful life skill to clean your feet before you go into the
Thank
tent.
you. Thank
Yes,
you, Amy.
There you go.
Make sure you tell my wife that.
Dr. Amy
So good.
says so.
Yes, that's right.
She does.
Oh, I was just thinking, along the lines of psychological safety. I know that it's something we talk about often, and I know that we really want to focus on it and think about how do we do this well. Some of the things that I think leaders might be a little scared of is if I do make a mistake, or if I do yell at someone, if I have an outburst, how do I start mending that relationship, and how do I get them back on track to having that culture and environment that we're wanting?
Yeah, how do you repair it? Right?
Yeah, how do you repair it?
So important. And I think this doesn't sit well with a lot of people, but it's so powerful and really doable, is start with an apology, right? And that doesn't mean, that's not rolling over and playing dead, right? I'm so sorry that happened, right?
Yeah.
It's like clarifying intention, because impact in that moment was bad. Right? And what people spontaneously do is we equate impact with intention. But if you have a bad impact on me, my brain instantly thinks you had bad intentions, and you didn't. Right? It's a mistake. It's a you fell off the balance beam. Right? Whatever. It's not a big deal. So I'm so sorry. Didn't mean to do that. Sometimes that's all you need. Right? And then it's apology. It's own it. It's not, but you made me do it, right? It's got to be ownership. Now think about what a good apology is. A very strong action, right? It's not weak. It's strong. You are strong enough to say, "I'm sorry," to own it, to own the mistake. We all make mistakes, right? We're all fallible human beings. And then, depending on what it is, ask for what you might be able to do to repair, right? Is there something, can I help? Is there something that would make it, I so value your work here, or whatever the case may be.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think it's important that we also create a culture where it's okay to be transparent about the mistakes you've made, right?
Yep.
Because I think a lot of time we attach shame to doing something wrong.
That's so true.
Yep.
Versus, okay, I'm going to embrace this opportunity and share what I've learned, right? And whoever I might have negatively impacted, I'm going to give a healthy apology to them and back that up with whatever action needs to happen.
Yeah, because I think growth, we've mentioned this before, but growth, I'll just talk personal experience. Growth for me happens one of two ways. Either I have fallen short, or I failed, and that gives me a learning, right? And my development exceeds. Or I have somebody that's willing to be honest with me, whether that's somebody on my team, somebody around me, my leader, or a mentor, that's when I get the development. So failures isn't really failing. It's an opportunity to learn. And I think you kind of talked about this culture of learning in organizations and using these failure points as springboards into greater things. And one thing that I think I've learned here in the last few years is the faster you fail is the faster you can learn.
Absolutely.
You got to limit that a little bit, right? Because you don't want to fail all the time.
Taking notes.
Yeah. You can't bring this up in your eval. You told me to fail fast.
It's pretty good.
But it's one of those things where the speed of which you can do that to learn, and I would guess in a teaming environment where there's probably lots of little mistakes that are made and you're constantly iterating as a team, helps too.
Yeah, now I don't know if this is going to get too nerdy, but there's a difference between the word failure and the word mistake. Right? So, and I'm a fan of both, don't worry.
Yep.
But a mistake, I think by definition, can only occur when there is a right way, right? And the right way is already known, right? You put the things on the shelf like this, right?
Yes.
And if you put the milk in the place where the cereal is, that's
great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But a failure could be, we've never tried a red display before, and a red display might be really attractive to customers and might sell things. So we try it, and guess what? It drives them away in droves, like they didn't like the red.
Yep.
And that's a failure. And
That's
no one knew in advance, right?
Yep.
It's a failure because it was a hypothesis. You tested it. Oh, you were wrong. That's okay.
Yeah, that's great.
New territory. Now, I think you can learn from mistakes and you can learn from failures. And I think it's helpful to use the right word, because it's
language is important.
We want to forgive people for making mistakes, but we also don't want them to keep making the exact same ones.
Yeah.
Because that's not learning.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. I love the difference between the two.
Yeah.
Because also
Drop in knowledge.
You're making us better, Amy. The failure point, is there also an element of risk to it as well? Like you are you're taking a risk, which is a little bit different than making a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Right, which is why we want to reward it, right? Because if we don't reward risk taking, then our operations will look exactly as they did, in 1950, and we'll be out of business.
That's right.
It won't.
That's right.
We've got to keep taking small, thoughtful risks, and sometimes bigger ones, depending on what's at stake and what we're trying. And that's, in a retail environment, you're so lucky because you can test things quite locally. Right? You don't have to roll it out.
That's right.
Globally,
Yeah.
That's right.
When you have a new idea.
Yep.
That's so true. Did you find anything on the teams? Because I want to get into what teams that struggled, what you saw there, because I think that would be interesting to talk about. But on the teams that did well, did you see anything around empowerment or decentralized decision making or anything around that?
Yeah, I think that the teams that do well have in common, and you might find this surprising, but structure, right? Because again, teamwork isn't a natural sport.
Interesting.
It takes practice, and and we all, like, left to our own devices, we'll stick with our habits. So I might have a habit of being very quiet at meetings, and I'm just going to stay that way. Or someone might have a habit of taking up all the airtime, and they're going to stay that way. So good teams have structures that help them go for more healthy patterns. So, for example, they might use a structure like rounds, right, where we're making a big decision about some project, some initiative, and let's just go around, and I just want to get everybody's thoughts. It's okay to pass, but and if you're gonna go around, then you're not worried about, can I get in here? Shouldn't I get in? I hold back. You're gonna go.
You're gonna get a turn. Yep.
And so you can actually really listen. So that's a simple example, but it's a very powerful tool to do that. So good teams
often
have a set of disciplines or
routines,
scaffolding routines that they use to make sure they're getting input, to make sure they're having the appropriate level of debate before they converge on the first idea that someone raises.
I love that. That makes me think, Liz, of huddles.
Yep.
So we have every team lead who has a team on a daily basis, if possible. We try to bring the teams together, whatever team they have there today, bring them together and have a quick 5-10 minute, what we call a huddle.
Yep.
Which is kind of like a routine.
Yep.
And to your point, Liz, that could either be a top down, this is what we're going to go do today, or, hey, getting input from the team and having more of collaboration.
Ideally, I think it should be a little bit of both.
You're probably right.
Yeah. One platform I stand on, and a question I'm asking my management and the other supervisors in the store is, what can I do to help us build a healthier habit here, like a better routine here? Because there are a lot of obstacles. Excuse me.
Yeah.
The stores are fast paced and a lot of just really excellent people. But my role, I feel like, is to really help remove those obstacles and say, okay, how can we strategize a little bit together to make sure that everything's getting accomplished?
Yeah. All right. So teams doing well. Let's talk a little bit about teams that you may have noticed that were struggling.
Yes.
Anything that popped out when you looked at those teams to say, hey, here are some common themes around teams that struggle?
Yeah, behaviors, that sort of thing.
One pattern, there's so many
I bet.
patterns, like, dysfunction patterns or dysfunction signals. In fact, we talk about firefighting. Persistent firefighting would be a dysfunction, right? And guess what? It's really addictive, right? It's firefighting, because it feels good. Like there was a little crisis and you swarmed and you fixed it, right? Versus the sort of steady, so there's always going to be firefighting, because there's always going to be things that we really couldn't have anticipated. But a great deal of things are anticipatable, and it's kind of better practice to do that. So when teams are spending too much time firefighting, it's often evidence of not enough planning, not enough thinking ahead, and just you get that great feeling of accomplishment because you got the thing done that the fire put out. But the trick is to try to help the team feel equally accomplished at just chipping away at its.
Interesting.
Exactly. I challenge my team all the time. How do we reward just that? How do we reward like those times where things are really, like you say, like smooth,
just excellence,
right? Yeah,
ordinary excellence.
Yep, that's great.
Absolutely. But a couple of failure modes. One is where there seems to be an emerging consensus about something, but one or two people maybe are privately thinking this isn't going to work.
This is a bad idea.
Yeah, that's a bad idea, but they just don't feel comfortable saying it because everyone else looks so happy about it. Right? And in a way, they may even be wrong in their diagnosis of how everyone else might be just jumping on the bandwagon. So in those moments, the team has lost the wisdom of one of its team members, and it's unaware. It's unaware of having lost it. Right? So and then it might be that the decision was just fine, or it might be that it really was a bad decision, and then I call that a preventable failure. Right?
Yep,
Right.
sure.
The wisdom was there, we just didn't access it. And so there, I think another failure mode is kind of excessive conflict, where we just end up, we're disagreeing so much that we end up hating each other and not really wanting to work together, and that's enervating and also doesn't work. So we haven't sort of had the discipline to have good debate, where reasonable people can disagree. So let's talk about how and why we're seeing it differently and come to the very best option.
Yeah, it's probably different. Conflict is probably different than like disagreeing and having a conversation about it. There's a difference between that and just pure tension on the team, which we see personal conflict. Yep.
I wrote an article about task. I mean, it wasn't my idea. Other people have written about it, but task conflict versus personal conflict. And task conflict is good, personal is bad, but the reality is it's not that simple, because when you and I disagree strongly about something related to the work, I stop feeling quite as warm and fuzzy about you, right? I mean, I start thinking you're really difficult. It's not true. You're not difficult. And so what we wrote about with Diana Smith, my wonderful co-author and friend, we wrote about how to help people manage relationship. Don't say, oh, that needs to go away. We shouldn't have that here.
Any other things on the teams that struggled around leadership? Did you see any from the leader that was in the room, the way they led? Obviously, they didn't create probably a transparent environment, some of those things, but any other qualities in a leader that may have struggled?
I mean, I think that when a leader believes that they have to have the right, they're the leader, so they have to have the answers. And they have to be right, and they have to tell other people what to do. In today's volatile, uncertain, complex world, that's more often than not not be a winning formula, right? It's just it's very unlikely that any team leader has all the answers or always knows the right way to do things. And so so that, what does that mean? And the implication is what we want our leaders. So when leaders are overconfident, sometimes you might use the word arrogant.
Yep.
It's nearly always going to inhibit effective teamwork, right? Because the world revolves around them. They're doing all the talking. They always are right. So why bother? Right? Why should I wake up in the morning and bring my A game to work? I just gotta go through the motions. And so conversely, when leaders are passionate about the work we do and curious about what others bring, that's a powerful formula, right? Because they care, they show up, ready to inspire and ready to work hard themselves, but they also show up super interested in what others bring.
That's right. Yeah, that's so good. We have this series we're doing right now called Inclusive Leadership, which is this concept of as a leader, how do you get everybody on the team to feel like they're included? And the reason why that's important is, and you kind of made a comment, I can't remember exactly the words that you used, but you lose out on the value of some of the people on the team if they don't feel included. So you lose out on that
wisdom
and the value, right, that they bring, right? And so we're trying, and it's a special leadership quality to be that inclusive leader. And we're putting all supervisors through this one-day training between now and August, I think. And then they have all kinds of online resources as well. So it's coming soon. It's going to be, I think, important. But the power of inclusive leadership is not only that you get the full value of the team, but you as a leader grow, I think, immensely, because you can learn a lot from your team. And what we found is when we went through and we promoted a lot of people over the last year, they're trying to do the right thing. Individuals are trying to do the right thing as being that leader. Like, I got the leadership hat. I now have the leadership badge.
Yep.
So I have a certain responsibility, and people are asking me, like, I'm the leader now, so I need to act like the leader, which is a total natural feeling. I know when I first became a leader of people, that you think that's what you're supposed to do. It's kind of like against your grain to do this other style, right? It's not natural for what I'm sure Amy, why it's not natural, but it doesn't feel natural for most people.
No, it doesn't. I think it feels very unnatural.
Yeah, very unnatural, right? But that's the more powerful leadership model. And we see this time and time and time again as we go through and we look at stores, distribution centers, here at the home office. Leaders that have a little bit more of that patient inclusiveness, a little bit of patience, got to have a little bit of patience, a little bit more inclusive, get significantly better results than the ones that are command and control, do it my way or else feel to it. But it's a special balance that you have to have.
And I would add to that, too, that I think today's workforce responds so much better to a leader that listens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That has that element of empathy.
Yeah.
Versus the do or die type leadership.
Like, here's the wall, let's go run through it. Yeah. Amy, I know you got just a few minutes left here, but is there anything, you got a lot of new leaders that will listen to this, a lot of people that are just trying to figure out this idea of leadership in general. They want to do well, right? I've never really met a leader that doesn't want to do well, but we all have our own struggles. For me, I've been in leadership for 20 years, and I every day learn something new or things that I should change in the way that I lead. So any last kind of tips or thoughts that they should consider? I love the idea of questions, ask questions, but anything else you would kind of give them as a parting gift of knowledge?
I think it's about balancing. Maybe balancing isn't the right word, but making sure that you're offering support and challenge. Right? So that, because I think everybody wants to be working in that, upper right hand quadrant. If this is support and this is challenge, right? You don't want to just come in and do some routine thing that doesn't even require your brain at all every day. That gets old. And you certainly don't want a mean, unsupportive, scary place to work. You want a supportive place where there's a place where you are challenged, where every day you get to challenge yourself to do a great job and to work well with your colleagues. And so as a leader, I think however you do that, your job is just to continually assess, how am I doing on the challenge and support, right? Enough challenge, enough support. How do I help? Your job is not about you. Your job is to make others better and to make and help others grow and develop so that they can contribute what they are capable of contributing.
That's awesome.
That's wonderful.
That's so
I love
good.
that.
That's so good. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. This is going to be highly valuable, I think, to the teams as they get a chance to listen to this. And thank you, Amy, too, for the research that you've done. And I really like your focus on frontline and knowing that that's where the rubber hits the road. And if you want to see good leadership, and raw leadership is on the front line of whatever industry you're looking at. So I really appreciate the work that you've done too.
Thank you. All right, take care.
All right. Thank you. Have a great
too.
day. Thanks.